Hey, this is Man-Made Mead. Today we're going to take all of these apples and make ourselves pretty good apple mead. Alright, so time to make an apple mead. I've made a bunch of these in the past. The apple cinnamon mead is probably one of my favorites to make and to drink. It just tastes really good, and I've got like 4 or 5 iterations of it now. This is my iteration probably 6. We are going to be using this recipe right here that you can see, which includes 3 different kinds of apples. We have Pink Lady apples, we have Fuji apples, and Gala apples. I have about 4 pounds each of each one, so 12 pounds in total. We will be using roughly about 2 pounds of honey for each gallon of water. We will be using roughly about 3 to 3.5 gallons of water and a gallon of apple juice. The gallon of apple juice is for, of course, the apple juice flavor. We're basically creating a Cyser. If you know what that is, it's an apple-based mead. So our goal is to create that nice apple taste, and there might be cinnamon in it. I have liked the cinnamon side of things in the past, so I'll probably do that as well. So here's what we're going to do. The process is super simple. All we have to do is take and start combining ingredients. I will explain the most difficult part, which is these apples are not going in right now. They are going to be frozen, and then after my yeast have hit their 2/3, or excuse me, the gravity of the entire mead has hit its 2/3 break, meaning that a third of it has been fermented on. For example, let's say I started at 1.100 and it got down to 1.07, whatever, 1.06666, all that. I would go ahead and add my apples. I'm doing that because the first beginning of the fermentation is probably the most vigorous portion, which means that all of the flavors, everything is basically getting blown out of the airlock, and with that you can often lose the flavors of fruits and other things. So this is my attempt to try and keep apple flavor more. I normally like to do apple in the primary and secondary, which I might end up doing. It just depends. I don't know. I'm kind of doing a new test with this. I'm trying to find the best way to make an apple mead. So let's start combining ingredients. Step 1, sanitize everything. I've got some Star San water here, and then I have things to stir with, my hydrometer, all that stuff. I have my honey. Everything's sanitized. This is sanitized so that we don't have any wild fermentation, any bad yeast, bad bacteria taking over. Let's start with our apple juice. We're gonna just pour it straight in. So this is a 6.5 gallon fermenter. We're getting splashy. A 6.5 gallon fermenter. Part of my sugars that I'm going to get are going to come from the apple juice. If you've ever had apple juice in your life, you know it's a very, very sugary drink. I also should note about this. This has does not have any preservatives in it, which makes it usable for what I'm doing. When you buy apple juice to make a Cyser, make sure that it does not have potassium metabisulfite or potassium sorbate, because those 2 things can halt fermentation or keep anything from really happening. So now we're going to start adding in our water, and this is about 3 gallons of water, and I might have to add a little bit more. We'll see. I have some more to add here in a moment. All right, adding our water in. Some of my other buckets have nice measurements of how much liquid's in it on the side. This one does not. But I've done this for a while, and looking at it, we're filled up to about here, which means that we're over half. We're looking at probably about 3.5 gallons currently. We still have some we can add, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to break open my other bottle of water. Okay, adding some more water. The more, I'm not too worried about gravity. I'm more worried about sediment, because I'm using so many apples that it's undoubtedly going to add quite a bit of sediment to this. I also want to make sure there's enough room on top for all these apples, which I think will be fine. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and start adding honey in. And this is kind of the arduous process, because we're going to have to pour it in, and that's a little difficult. This is a 60-pound pail of honey. There are better ways to do this. You could separate it out into smaller bits and do it that way. I haven't done that. That's okay. We're going to be adding assuming that this is 4.5 gallons of water, or of water plus apple juice, we're gonna add about, let's say 8 pounds of honey. We're gonna round down instead of rounding up. 8 pounds of honey for this. We've already got sugars from the apple juice. So I'm carried out currently. I'm gonna go ahead and start pouring some of this in. We're gonna get 8 pounds. And this is a little lighter because I've used some of it. This is my Alpha Blossom honey from Dutch Gold, and it is fantastic. I think by itself, as a traditional mead, it makes a really cool, really nice tasting mead. And, oh, a little bit over, that's okay. We've got 8.2, 8.3, that's right. All right, so I've already realized one issue. This bucket, with how much it's full right now, when I start adding in apples, all my apples are not gonna fit in that. So, my resolve, I have bigger buckets. This is an 8-gallon fermenter, and I've already sanitized it. We're gonna go ahead and just pour it into here instead. So, this is okay because I'm gonna be adding air, oxygen into this. Ooh, hold on. Let's use a little logic. Let me mix this up first, and then we will go ahead and pour that in because I have honey all at the bottom now. So I use a degassing wand to do this in a drill, and I stir one way and I stir the other way, and it does a pretty good job. So I'm gonna do that real fast, stir all this up, and then I'll be right back. All right, now we're ready to go ahead and dump it in. We're stirred up. A little bit of a splash. Again, this is starting to also add some oxygen, which the yeast will need. That's a little better. That'll leave some more space for apples on top. Okay, so move that out of the way. Move this guy up to a work zone. All right, and probably the easiest part of all, we're gonna add our yeast. I almost forgot that we need to take a gravity reading. So let's go ahead and see roughly where our gravity is for this mead. Now you can wait about 24 hours and do this and to really make sure all the honey's mixed in. However, when I was pouring that through, I saw pretty well that it had mixed in. So we're looking at 1.070, which is, if I'm not mistaken, a 9%. Yes, 9% mead. That's pretty solid. I think that'll change a little bit with the addition of apples because they naturally have sugars. So we might, it's hard to gauge how much apples or fruits really, like sugars add as far as ABV is concerned. So, or gravity. So it's not really a total guarantee. I am imagining that this thing will end up at 10% after addition of apples, but we'll find out. The K1V1116, which is the one I'm using here, will get us up to 18 at max, which is way more than what we're gonna have, which is okay. So I'm gonna sprinkle on top. Normally, or sometimes, I like to rehydrate. I did a big test about rehydrating versus sprinkling, and my test results basically told me that the rehydrating does impact a little bit, but it's only based on like the timeline of things. What's more important is that your yeast colonize quickly enough so that they can actually ferment effectively and they're not stressed out. If they're trying to reproduce super hardcore and are struggling, then they're going to be stressed out. So 10 grams of yeast is plenty. 5 grams will get me 5 gallons. I'm just really kind of making sure. I'm going to stir this up real fast, and then we'll talk about the next step. Before I close this up, I am going to add some yeast nutrient and energizer. I'm not going to choose a staggered nutrient schedule this time, which means I'm going to put all of my composite nutrients in at once. I need 1 teaspoon per gallon of yeast nutrient, which is like here, what, about 5 gallon, or 5 teaspoons, excuse me. Then I need 1 to 1.5 teaspoons per gallon of Fermax or yeast energizer, so we're going to put 5 as well. If you do a staggered nutrient schedule, that means that you would add over 4 different, basically installments, you would add the composite of all that. So I'm not doing that this time. You can. It does work well. I just, honestly, I got too much to think about, and so I'm just going to put it on all at once, and it will be okay. You can choose whatever method you like. and I think you'll find success in both ways. One day I'll do a test of whether or not one's more useful than the other. Okay, so we have added all of this, and again, I'm going to stir it up one more time. So this is going to hopefully start fermenting here in about, I don't know, 12 to 24 hours, and then we'll see if it works well. All right, so we're finished for right now. I will be back with part 2, and this is in part 2 we'll get to the third sugar break and we'll add our apples in. But I don't want this video to be too crazy long. So go check out part 2 if you want to find out how this one's going. And I hope you've enjoyed it so far. If you want to support the channel, go check out the links down below. There's a bunch of stuff for Facebook where you can be part of one of my 2 groups. I have just the main group, which is facebook.com/manmademeadery, where we talk about mead making. It's a lot of fun. Then there's the other one, Man-Made Mead Makers, where we get to talk even more about it. It's a pretty highly, active discussion board. Then I have a Patreon. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can go and check it out. I have a Wall of Fame if you want to join and be on the Wall of Fame. You also get to see content early and some other perks, which is nice. And then I have some other links down below for t-shirts and various things. I love getting to talk to you guys, so make sure that you leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, and of course, just like and subscribe if you want to see some more. So with that, I'll be back with part 2 very soon. Keep your eyes peeled for that, and hope you guys have a great day. So with that, cheers.